Hello, YouTube. The great sage Patanjali is one of the most mysterious and revered figures in Indian philosophy, yoga, and medicine. His name is associated with the creation of fundamental texts such as the Yoga Sutras and Mahabhashya, as well as the tradition of Ayurveda. However, Patanjali's personality is shrouded in myths and legends, which often portray him as a half-serpent, half-man, or naga. In Indian mythology, Patanjali is often depicted as a creature combining the features of a human and a snake. According to legends, he was the incarnation of the serpent Ananta or Shesha, which serves as a support for the deity Vishnu. Here's one of the most popular accounts of this story, the legend of Patanjali and Shesha. It is said that once the deity Vishnu watched Shiva dance, Vishnu was so delighted that his body began to vibrate with delight. At that time, the serpent Shesha, on which Vishnu rested, could not withstand the weight and fell to the ground. Later, Shesha decided to be born in human form in order to share the wisdom of yoga with people. This is how Patanjali appeared, who combined the human form and the serpentine nature. According to another account, Patanjali came down from heaven in the form of a half-serpent, half-man to pass on the knowledge of yoga to the people. This legend is often mentioned in the commentaries to the Yoga Sutras and in oral traditions, especially in South India. Snake symbolism. The snake or serpent in the Indian tradition symbolizes wisdom, transformation, and Kundalini energy, which plays a key role in yoga practices. The portrayal of Patanjali as a half-serpent highlights his connection to these concepts. This is how Patanjali is often depicted in South India. In Indian iconography, Patanjali, yes, he is frequently depicted as that half-serpent, half-man being. For example, in the temples of South India, especially in Tamil Nadu, one can find images of Patanjali with a human torso and a snake's tail. These images emphasize his connection with the nagas and symbolize his role as the guardian of wisdom and yogic knowledge. In addition, in some commentaries on the Yoga Sutras and other philosophical works, Patanjali is described as naga. That's very important. For example, the Patanjali Charita, the biography of Patanjali, a text that has not survived to the present day but is mentioned in later sources, speaks of his serpentine nature. In the commentaries to the Yoga Sutras by authors such as Vyasa and Shankara, Patanjali's connection with the nagas is sometimes mentioned, albeit in a symbolic context. King Vyoja, the patron saint of the arts, literature and science of the 11th century, wrote in the introduction to his commentary, The Royal Sun, on Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, I offer my respectful obeisances to Patanjali, the greatest of the sages, who purified the mind through yoga, speech through grammar, and the body through medicine, in front of someone whose appearance combines the human form in the upper part, who holds a shell and the wheel in his hands, who shines white and has 1,000 heads. To this Patanjali I pay my deep respects. Well, let's look at the nagas. You can look at my other videos. I try to be very detailed in my research, and you will find, just do the search through the channel, nagas. Mythical creatures in Indian culture. Nagas are those mythical creatures that are depicted often as half serpent, half human. They occupy an important place in Indian mythology and are considered to be the guardians of underground treasures as well as wisdom. Nagas are associated with water, fertility, and spiritual power. In some texts, Patanjali, again, is called Naga, and it does emphasize his connection with this mythical to some creatures. So, was it a man or a myth? From the point of view of historical science, Patanjali was most likely a real person, a philosopher, a grammarian, and possibly a doctor. And I will get more into this. His works demonstrate deep knowledge and a systematic approach, which indicates the human nature of the author. The myths about Patanjali as a half serpent, half man reflect the symbolic perception of his personality. At least to some researchers, they could also reflect a knowledge that has been lost and accounts of visitations of our planet by fallen spaceships, perhaps having been damaged, and the inhabitants remaining on our planet and teaching the locals all kinds of wisdom. The serpentine nature highlights his connection with wisdom, transformation, and spiritual energy, which are key elements of yoga. In addition, myths and reality are often intertwined in Indian culture. The legend of Patanjali as a naga served to emphasize his divine nature and the significance of his teachings. I can completely agree with this. Whoever he was, or whatever it was, Patanjali remains a mysterious figure who combines historical reality and mythological symbolism. On the one hand, he was a man whose writings had a huge impact on philosophy, grammar, and yoga. On the other hand, his image as a half-serpent, half-man reflects a deep connection with the Bharat, or Indian mythology and symbolism. And regardless of whether he was human or naga, Patanjali's legacy continues to inspire millions of people around this planet. Well, what about historical Patanjali? Well, historically, Patanjali is considered to be the author of two key texts. One, Yoga Sutras, is a fundamental work on the philosophy of yoga, systematizing its principles and practices. Two, Mahabhashya is a commentary on the grammar of Sanskrit, which played an important role in the development of linguistics. Well, I would say one of the most interesting languages on our planet. I also read somewhere that Patanjali did not create but fixed the teaching of yoga. There were already some records of the yoga school before him, but they were not been preserved. They have not been preserved. Gradually, the sutras acquired the status of a highly authoritative text, even among those schools that are genetically unrelated to Patanjali Yoga. They usually treat the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali with great respect. Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, it's the basic text of the Indian philosophical school of yoga, Darshana Shastra, which had a huge impact on the perception of yoga in India and the rest of the world. In one way or another, all significant teachers of yoga schools refer to him. Researchers usually date this text from the 2nd century before Common Era to the 5th century Common Era. However, there is practically no reliable historical evidence about Patanjali's life. Scientists suggest that he lived between the 2nd century before Common Era and the 4th century Common Era, but the exact dates and place of his birth remain unknown. Some researchers even hypothesize that several people could be hiding under the name of Patanjali, each of whom have contributed to different fields of knowledge, or, as we have seen with the story of the Yellow Emperor, and you can definitely see my video about this interesting personality in Chinese history. As we have seen, such a person as the Yellow Emperor or Patanjali can have assistants, people who help him to promote knowledge delivered from the faraway stars to local human population of the planet Earth. The research into the mysteries of the naga continues. That's what I wanted to let you know today. And if you like my research and you can support me, please do so to the links you will find in the description to this channel. Please tell others about my work. And thank you for your attention.